Yeah, incredibly exciting. It didn't feel like that 2 minutes into the game when Yeboah hit an absolute rocket um, that I don't think any goalkeeper that I've ever seen could do a lot about. But beyond that, I thought the guys did an excellent job of disrupting a team that are based around possession. Can be extremely frustrating and difficult to play against. They've got some tremendous dimensions to their group, as we can see that front trio are very lively. But as we worked through that game and into the game, I thought the opportunities started to present themselves a little bit more. The finishing in the first half looked a little bit ragged, but nevertheless, there was plenty of willingness and eagerness to be creative in that final third, and there was no lack of determination to get back in the game. And in the end, it came from a dead ball source that got us back on level terms. And I think at that point in time, and it's difficult obviously from the line, but there'd been so many things that I thought we'd done well to frustrate them and to put them in a difficult spot. It looked like we grew, another foot or two, and they shrunk maybe a foot or two, and life looked a little bit more difficult for them. And the second goal, really, I thought caused all sorts of problems for them mentally. And then the end of the game is a bit end to end, and plenty of opportunities, but finally a world-class goal from Hani to really seal the deal.
Head coach, one of the we saw the team come out in the second half really, really energized and kind of calmed the game down a little bit. It seemed like because that first half just seemed like a lot of back and forth, really. So what was the message at halftime, and what exactly did you tell them, and how did that play out?
Well, sometimes they're just reminders, The guys realised that the Columbus shape was always going to be awkward for us. And the way that they play and the talent they have in their side, not easy to get the ball back if you squander it cheaply. So really the reminder was, look, if there are quick actions to be had, then let's go for it. But aside that, we need to be a little bit more patient and thoughtful, and maybe there's some areas and some vulnerabilities in their group that we need to try and take a little bit more advantage of. Yes, there was a little bit more composure, but don't forget, the goal, and when the goal comes, makes a hell of a difference to the mentality of any team. And I thought we deserved to get back on level terms at that point as well.
And one more, in terms of the crowd today, we've always had good crowds here at the stadium, I'd say, but today seemed like it was a little louder, a little bit more on the backs of the Columbus and the referee. Any comments on the
It was an exceptional atmosphere. It was absolutely fantastic. As you say, the environment here has been a wonderful stadium to be involved in and to be part of from the very outset. But yeah, I don't know. I'm sure everyone was stunned in the first 2 minutes when we go behind. As I was sitting on the bench, it was so quick. It was such a terrific strike. But I would hope, and I do feel that the fans have got a good connection now with the players, and there's a good feel about it. They can see when the guys are, there's a lot of determination and spirit to get back in the game, even if things are not going quite right. I think they understand when the group's maybe fatigued or maybe not at their best, but they also found tonight, and I think they do again realise when they're on the front foot, the players, when they're being aggressive, and there are things that I think maybe under normal circumstances wouldn't quite happen because of that upwardly mobile attitude of our group. And of course, we've got to get back in the game. There's a when you're a goal behind and you feel that way, the attitude and the willingness is so vitally important. But of course, somebody somewhere has got to stand up and be counted. And Fafa's goal to get us back on level terms came at a really good time.
Thanks. So,
Joe Willis has been kind of your stone wall in the back, minus the 2-minute goal early in the game. Late in the second half, you had that bicycle kick that almost could have went in. Speak a little bit about Joe's performance tonight and previously.
Yeah, I don't casting my mind back to the first half and maybe through the sort of meat of the game. I don't remember too many situations that he was called into, serious action. But in the final moments when the pressure came on, there were 2 or 3 situations that, I mean, the bicycle was probably the most notable one because when Hernandez, contorts his body and is able to get over the ball and hit the target, I think it's very, very difficult for a goalkeeper then to know where that's going. So, the save's an excellent one. The strike is outstanding as well, of course. But there were other moments where I thought he looked calm, he looked collected, he inspired the back line that, unless it was something special like the first effort of the game, it was going to take something like that to beat him. And I think that gives an added, shot in the arm to the back line and to the group to obviously stay in that 1 goal lead and obviously extend it towards the end.
One more for you. So going into this game, obviously losing the U.S. Open Cup to Bournemouth here in Miami, was there any fatigue going into this game for the cup? Oh, no, excuse me, the cup. A league match against Columbus?
Well, it's been a tough month. This is our 7th game in the month of May. It was always going to be a little bit difficult because of the schedule. And part of the reason for rotating the team in the cup, and by the way, I know I've said it a couple of times, but I thought the guys that played down in Miami put on a terrific performance and probably deserved more than they got in that 90 minutes. However, we were bounced out. And the upside, if there was one, was that this group that played tonight, the vast majority of them, were fresher. We're in a much better place to come and attack this game. And, maybe if they'd have played on Wednesday night or Tuesday night, maybe it would have been a little bit more difficult to raise themselves and to force the issue a little bit when you go a goal behind. But I honestly, when I looked at the way that they were getting after the game, the energy, the drive, it really was a good performance in that second half to come from behind and to find a way through to 3 goals. So I think the cup game and the lack of action for a lot of those guys probably helped massively.
Yeah, Coach. Congrats on the win as well. Y'all done pretty well with set pieces, this year as well, and you had 2 tonight in the corners. What kind of aspect makes those set pieces so effective?
Do you know what? I actually think, there have been situations where we could have picked up 2 or 3 more goals from dead balls. But tonight, if we're talking about that, the second half in particular, the delivery was worked into an area that was going to ask some questions. The difference between scoring and not, timing, getting that ball into an area that we know it's going to be worked into, but probably more than anything else, are guys that are willing to put their body on the line and be first. Because, make no mistake, there are times where you're going to get, a physical confrontation, a bang on the head, a problem, a physical problem, because you're putting yourself into harm's way to try and score a goal. And if you look at the way the 2 goals were scored, especially Fafa's, he's right in the mix. And, he's not the biggest guy in the world, but he's really determined. And I think when he sees the back of the net, it gives him, almost like Popeye, that feeling of, I can't be stopped here. And he managed to, I don't know, shrug his way through to what was a vital goal for us.
We are going to transition to the Zoom team. Go ahead.
Hey, Gary, you got Walker and Randall back tonight. Obviously, you've had opportunities to give Randall competitive minutes in other ways, but Walker, we haven't seen in a while. What did you think of the performance of each of those 2 guys, and then how are they feeling after the game?
Yeah, they're both in a very decent place. As you could see with Walker, there was always going to be a real limitation to his minutes. And strangely enough, the circumstances worked out almost perfectly to get him what was about 12 minutes of football tonight. And we're ahead of schedule here. We were aiming for Dallas. The medical staff have done a fantastic job with him. I know he's, yes, he's in, no, he's not. But there were some things that I think arose from one or two of the scans that maybe weren't seen early on. And, you know, this is a week early for him. So I'm really pleased for him. And, you know, he's definitely on the right track now. As far as Randall's concerned, you know, he gets a little bit of a prolonged period, 25 minutes, I think, maybe with injury time above 30 minutes. I think you're still seeing in his game there's a lack of sharpness, you know, that match pace that he'd be working towards. But the one thing you know from Randall is you're going to get that energy, you're going to get that enthusiasm, especially in those closing stages. He's at his very best when he's on those counter-attacks. And we've seen in the past that he can be so lethal. But I do think that with some more minutes under his belt, especially at this level, we're going to see Randall back to his very best again.
And then you mentioned, obviously you guys didn't want to go out of the U.S. Open Cup, but also 7 games in a month. Do you guys have a little bit more of an opportunity to, you know, give guys kind of full 90s weekend to weekend now that you know that there's a little bit less competition over the course of the rest of the summer here?
Yeah, I think the schedule for us in a month of June ends up away from home quite a little bit more than here. But I think the only midweek game is in a couple of weeks' time. So therefore, it looks a far more sensible schedule. But I do think the things to consider right now are what does the middle of June look like as we lose guys to Nations League and then Gold Cup, for the players that, you know, I've seen some really good competitive minutes in Open Cup, and maybe are not going to see as many now in the next 2 or 3 weeks before some of those guys disappear. They need to be ready, whoever those guys are on the periphery. They need to be sharp and they need to be, you know, mentally in tune for what comes next, because when we lose those bodies, it's going to be all hands on deck again.
Forward, Teal Bunbury. Any questions for Teal?
Teal, what changed in the second half? What happened there? You guys came back and seemed like you controlled the game.
Yeah, I mean, I think even in the first half we disrupted Columbus pretty well. You know, they're a really possession-oriented team, and I feel like they weren't really creating too much in the first half. Came in at halftime, and you know, there was some good conversations happening in the locker room of, you know, we just got to make sure that we continue to put them under pressure and make sure we just have a little bit more of a killer instinct when we get those opportunities, those chances. And, you know, we got 2 of our goals on set pieces, which is something that we've been working a lot on. You know, and then we withstood the storm. You know, they were putting us under pressure towards the end there. Joe was making some big saves. Everyone was grinding, so.
Go ahead, Blair.
Just one more. In terms of the first half, but happened in the second half as well, but mainly the first half, it seemed like it was like a really physical match. There's a lot of back and forth. Do you like those matches? Do you prefer them? Or?
I mean, yeah, of course. You know, I'm for me as a center forward, I'm always going to get into those battles. I think we got a group of guys that are willing to fight. You know, and these tough matchups are going to be happening, you know, the rest of the season, in particular in the summer. It's going to be dogfights, and it's going to be guys are going to have to, you know, be ready, be motivated. And I think we showed that tonight.
Go ahead, Justin.
Yeah, so you went down early, 2 minutes, but the fans really backed you, especially in the second half.
Yeah.
What can you say about the fans being back you?
I mean, every game we play at home, they're always backing us. I think that's so important. Geodis, we're making it the Castle, and without those fans, I don't think we, you know, get that support, that bump, that extra motivation to go out there and get the job done. So, so much love for them, and we're going to continue to need that the rest of the season.
Go ahead, Nick.
Walk us through your goal then.
Yeah.
Set piece. What did you see?
Yeah.
What was the run?
Yeah, I mean, we've been working on some set pieces. You know, I was just trying to be in front of the goalkeeper there. I know Dan has an unbelievable left foot. He can serve great balls in, and you know, just it got over the first man. And, you know, I popped off the keeper a little bit, and you know, felt good. Yeah.
Any more before we go to Tim? Tim, you got anything?
Yeah, I think just Teal, obviously, performance is going to be the story of the match, especially in stoppage time. What did you think of Joe's performance, and especially those two big saves in stoppage time? Hopefully, you can hear me. It looks like
Yeah, I was trying to hear you, but Joe, yeah, I mean, he's big time for us. Before every game, I always say, keep us in the game, and he does that every single game, you know. Without him, I don't think, you know, we're getting that result tonight. So he's big time, game in, game out, and he's always motivating us, you know. And when he comes up with those big saves, it gives us an extra push. And, you know, he's just a special goalkeeper.
Any more, Tim?
Yeah, just one more.
Go for it.
You guys not only got Randall back tonight, but you got Walker back as well. First time we've seen those guys in the first time in a league match as well. What did you think of their performances, and how excited are you to have them, you know, going forward over the rest of the summer?
It's always great when you can have your top players, you know, back in the mix. You know, hopefully we just continue to progress. We got a lot of depth on this team, a lot of key players that we're going to need. The summer's going to be, you know, challenging, like it always is. The more healthy bodies we have, the better. So just looking forward to our next game. You know, got a couple of days off now to relax with the fam. You know, so that's what we're about to do.